Yay, it's working. All the good things. We can begin our beautiful discussion. I've been waiting for this for so long because it's a topic that touches everyone. Everyone they will have the whole gamut. So let me go ahead. I'm getting too excited and introduce you. Today we have a wonderful colleague and also someone I call a friend, which is Miss Oriana. And a little bit about her in case that maybe you've heard her, maybe you know her, but you're going to learn a little bit more, is she's basically an international belly dance performer and instructor. She's based in Tampa, Florida, so yeah, other coast of the state where I'm at. She's the creator of Fanus magazine, which if you haven't gone and checked that out, please do. It's a really great resource, lots of nice writers, articles, really wonderful about the dance culture. And she's a board member of both the Jawahir Dance Company and the Care Global Arts. So welcome, Oriana.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited for this too.
Yes. Today we're going to be talking about body image, but the feeling duped part sometimes from a multitude of different perspectives that we will do our best to share. And we are very much excited for your commentary. So you have any experiences, stories, things, questions you want to share, please put them in there. We will answer them as soon as we take little breaks and things. We'll make sure to answer you. So a little bit of the background. I would love to know a little bit about why you felt that this was the topic you really wanted to touch. So just a little bit about what brought you to this conversation.
Right, absolutely. So I understand that this is a really complicated topic as well that would have many different facets. So what we're going to try to cover in this talk is, specifically working as a professional or performing what I would consider just a performing belly dancer, whether it's gigging in the restaurants, competing, where you are in front of people. And like you said earlier, this is going to affect everyone at some point. It's not if, it's when. And there's always this feeling of I was a student for so long, and then I went to transition to being more than a student, and I felt like I got hit in the face with this surprise. And I know that a lot of my students have come to me about it. I'm really fortunate as an instructor that I have professional gigging students that come to me for tutelage and for lessons and for folklore training. And I've also noticed that a lot of people have been asking me this in general because it's like good news, bad news. I've made a name for myself as a full-figure dancer for over 20 years. But it does still affect me in many ways, and the industry is always changing. So even within my own experience, I've had to make a lot of pivots and a lot of professional decisions on how I'm going to navigate this.
Which I want to hear so much about this. Okay, beautiful. I know from my perspective, I always dealt with it, and it was always I come from like the opposite side, or a really weird angle, where I was always really tiny and like very lean, and I was too lean when I started. Yes, I was told I was too skinny in my 19, 20, 21s. And then my experience for this topic is going to come a lot also as a booker, because that's where things got real very fast in ways I never expected. So we'll maybe chat about that if there's time. But I'm super dying to know a little bit more. Tell me some of those experiences. What were some of those items, maybe as like a performer or a teacher? You mentioned students say certain things. Like, what exactly are they saying to you?
So speaking on my own experience, because what you said is very valid, where belly dance is pretty specific on this image that people have in their mind. And there could be a different image in the mind of a general westernized, more Americanized public, and then there's the image in the Arabic speaking world and what they think a belly dancer should look like. And I'm saying that really loosely because they're obviously going to change and flux as well. But my earliest experiences actually came from my very first teacher, who was pretty clear that when I expressed being a professional, that it was like, no, you're going to be a student. Like, this isn't happening, that kind of thing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. And it was in a lot of different ways. And sometimes these things are very subtle. It can be a little nefarious. And that is one of the most common frustrations that I do hear from people is I've been paying someone for classes, they're taking my money, but now if I want to further myself, there's this gatekeeping. And sometimes as teachers, it can come in the guise of, well, I'm telling you for your own good. I'm trying to warn you before you get out there and you've just been with your dance sisters in the studio for a couple of years, that I want to tell you what could happen before somebody else does it to you.
Yeah, when you get out the bubble.
Right, and that is difficult as a teacher because sometimes, and I've had to have some conversations of like, hey, listen, like you've been studying with me, you're ready for this, do you want me to look at your costume? Do you have any questions about how you should do your hair and makeup? But oftentimes it will accidentally cross over into, oh, don't wear that style of costume, or you need to, the big thing when I started was the stomach mesh, was the mesh belly coverings. And it was like, if you're moving at all in the abdominal region, you were told to like have something there, or it wasn't commercial enough and it wasn't going to be professional looking, if you get my drift. And then, of course, like, obviously I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but later when I got to Egypt, it was like, well, the shabaka, which is the stomach mesh, could be required in some instances. So it's not even seen as like a body modification thing. But here it was like, you're not skinny enough. You need to cover. So that was a big one. As I became a professional, and because you know me well enough, I'm like, well, I'm doing it anyway. So here we go. But it was interesting when I started professionally performing that, and I would say this is still true, that I get more of my hurtful commentary, unsolicited advice, and comments from women than I do men. So usually our conversations center around like, oh, well, this is all for the male gaze. I would kind of beg to differ. And if it's any solace, I feel like I've gotten far more positive commentary from men, maybe because of how curvy I am and the way that I'm shaped. That could be unique to me. But when it comes to being told that I shouldn't be performing professionally, it's usually from other women, and it's almost always from other dancers.
From dancers and other women. Interesting.
Yes.
I wonder if the men are too shy. This is such a generalization and assumption. Probably, totally. But, because, women are usually our clients. We're usually interacting, at least in most of my experience with my colleagues too, it's the women that hire, generally. So
Yes.
I wonder if it's just because it's women to women, maybe there's something like that wall is down a bit more to be able to be like, hey, girl, this, even if you completely disagree.
Maybe. And I want to be clear, I've also had a massive amount of support from other women, anything ranging from like, they don't see any sort of issue to, well, I'm really glad that I see someone that looks more like I do. That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So it definitely runs the course. But I would say the most hurtful comments that, the calls coming from inside the house here, like it's usually from our own community, where people have it beat in their head that if they don't look a certain way, they can't perform. So then when they see somebody else doing it, it throws them off.
Yeah. I'm from I think like the same generation of time as you, so I remember that very much, but I never paid attention to it in that way because, I remember the students being told that we're a bit fuller figure, yep, we're in the match, and it never even occurred or clicked. You know what I mean? It's so interesting. But yes, that was a thing. My teacher, my first teacher, would totally, like, sweetly, yeah, that was a thing. So were the other booking dancers. Okay. How about there's like always this big marketing slogan, and I'm gonna mention it here because I'm probably like the opposite. But I always see in marketing. Belly dance is for everyone. And yes, you can learn, like, if you want to learn, learn. But then it can feel like in this topic, let me know, but it's not quite the reality outside of the class, even though I feel like things are getting better.
In some ways we're getting better, and in some ways it's getting harder, in my personal opinion. Because you're touching on something that I've talked about at length, where we all start our first classes with our jangly hip scarves and our little crop tops, and you really get sold and told repeatedly. It's not one slogan, it's not one studio, it's pretty much every studio that tells women almost exclusively belly dance is for everyone, and you can have any body and be a belly dancer, which is true. Even in the Arabic world, that is true. I witnessed it firsthand, professionally and socially. And then, of course, the slap in the face that we referred to earlier is if you do express, maybe wanting to get paid for what you're doing, and then
everything shifts.
Yes, once money has entered into the chat, there becomes this huge transition into, well, now you're being hired for a service, and that is now perceived as you need to provide what the client wants. And then that's when their opinion of what you're doing is now a major factor. And that's where most people fall into a lot of accidental pitfalls, or how do I talk about this? How do I negotiate this? How can I justify charging what I want to charge if I'm seen as less than, whether it's too skinny, too big, too tall, too old, whatever? Because somebody's always going to have an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of course, this is entertainment, first and foremost. But it's not like ballet companies. It's not the same as when you are in ballet and you're fitted for a costume once and it has to last you all season, and there is a culture of expectation in order to stay in that dance company. When you started belly dance, you were told you were fine the way that you were.
Yes.
So that you could sign up for classes and they could have you in the studio, and they're making money off of your attendance, okay? Whether that's done on purpose or not, I'm not trying to say that, but that is the reality.
Yeah, it's because I totally believed it when I started. Like, I really, I totally did my first few years as a student. It was like the one place I think I felt like I fit in just the way I was, because I was like this, growing up. And I remember them being like, "Oh my gosh, more hips, put veils on the side so it looks like you have more hips." Like, to people, it's celebrated if you had a woman's body, a woman's body, quote unquote. It's a whole other thing. But the archetype of, boobs, little waist, big hips, you need to have something to shimmy. If there's nothing to shimmy, I had to make up ways to shimmy, especially the younger I was. But it was so celebrated, where you're like, oh my God, it doesn't matter if I'm like yay high, or like everybody wants to be juicy and like shimmy and have a good time, and I think that's still valid. But what you're saying about when it crosses over, there comes that point, and then it's the client, which I think is like the market, depending where you are, even though I feel like it's getting very globalized, the beauty standards. Oh, hi, kitty. Hi. Oh, I love animals.
Osiris has a lot to say.
Yes.
He's the real star.
Do you feel that the expectations of the market are also being very globalized? This is just my perspective. You can totally disagree. But I feel like
I don't know if I would say
shifting.
No, it's definitely shifting. You're absolutely correct. Because especially, like, I'm not in the restaurants anymore. I kind of, hung up my hip scarf when it came to that. And that's not necessarily a market that I want to keep trying to elbow myself into if they have set expectations of who they want. I make my money elsewhere, and I've made enough of a name for myself. But for those that are coming to me for coaching about doing their local restaurant, scene, what I am noticing, and I don't know if this would fall under the term globalized, but it's going more high lux, very detailed, expensive looking costumes, and very sleek looking presentation. I'll say that between the super slicked hair, the almost, I almost want to say like high-end luxury Dubai look.
Luxury makeup, luxury. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And of course, I mean, what is typically equated stereotypically with high-end luxury, but very tall, very slender, very, usually fair-skinned, which is also not fair, and just having a very certain figure. So I'm no longer seeing, and Sadie's my friend, so I'm going to say this, but when I was started Bellydance, Sadie was like considered the quintessential. But I'm not seeing that as much as I am seeing more of like Victoria's Secret runway, like what I would train somebody as high fashion when I did runway training.
That's such an interesting point. I can see why. I feel like it's almost like there's reality and there's social media, which social media is what it, but it does seem, I feel, I've seen a lot of what you see in the social media realm because I'm not in those circles as much. Anyone to chime in by all means, but I would say in the social media, I've noticed where it's like almost like models, like supermodels, and yet
Yes,
crazy
yes,
clout or famous, whether they have skill or not, the beauty and this like globalized beauty. I remember, and for clarity, when I say globalized, I mean, like you were saying, there's certain things that, you're seeing all across the plastic surgery with the nose, which I'm all for plastic surgery. Let me tell you, I'm just saying from a globalized standpoint, it seems like everyone wants like this straight nose and they want like the long dark hair and they want the big boobs, but the little waist. And then like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a tall, slender figure. And you're like, well, okay, this is good for them. They're freaking beautiful. These girls are, I mean, like, they're beautiful. Trust me, I don't hate on that. But when there's like no talent, that's where I go, what? But then again, that's not the real world. It's a made up virtual social media world. So
yeah.
I'm so interested to see what like boots on the ground, what maybe some others may comment or say on this too.
Yes, and I think it is important to note that this is only one type of performing circle, because clearly I still work. I'm one of the busiest. I'm like James Brown. I'm the busiest lady in showbiz. It is so possible to get paying work and not fit that aesthetic. I
Oh,
think,
sure.
what we're talking about here is seeing a shift towards this kind of ultra social media influenced, high fantasy, high fashion looking sort of presentation of the dancer as part of atmosphere, as part of carrying a brand, as part of like promoting how luxurious the event is or how high end the wedding is maybe. And then there's many other realms of performing that in my domestic travels, I do see differences in kind of the hometown scene where there's not as much of an entertainment scene in like small town USA. There's one Mediterranean restaurant, or
Yeah. Okay.
it's shows that are being put on by the one belly dance studio. So then they're kind of making it work into other venues, maybe, where there's an art gallery or there's a women's event. And those are always going to be far different than, your high-end wedding booking, kind of more like in Florida, we would say more like a Miami vibe where it's, it's just a different world.
Yeah,
So,
weddings. I love
yeah,
those.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then I think plastic surgery is, it's almost normal. And again, I bring it up just because it is, I feel it's, I mean, I think you know as well, you travel there too. I mean, it's standard over there. Like I have friends and I know everyone, you have to get pretty much plastic surgery. Sorry to tell you, your manager will demand it of you.
Yes.
If you go dance there and like no one talks about it, you know?
Yeah.
But that's like a beauty body, like they'll be like, get lipo, get this done. I mean, they have zero filter, some of these managers.
Some of these managers, well, they know that you're there to make your name. So it becomes this very toxic environment of, do you want it or not? Do you want to be famous or not? Do you want to dance here or not? So there are gigs in Egypt where it's not as high pressure as that. But it's very akin to here, and I want to be really clear about that. It's not Egyptian culture. This is the entertainment environment that has become there. Yeah. Where if you're in the five-star hotels, or namely if you're performing for tourists, you're performing for non-Egyptian crowds, there's going to be a high emphasis on having a certain look, having the plastic surgery done. And you're right, they're not shy about it. This isn't some trade secret we're talking about here. Like it's definitely a thing.
It's normal to hear that.
Very much. It's expected, like you said. And then if you are performing for Egyptians, you know, you do have a different vibe in those environments. They are more accepting. They tend to like curvier women, that kind of thing. Or they might just generally be more accepting if you're a talented performer, because they're there to see their dance. So that's different. But I will say that plastic surgery and belly dance have become so intertwined, even in Egypt, that an Egyptian themselves might be surprised if you haven't had it, because it's like, well, now that's part of your job. Yeah.
In my country, it's super common to have plastic surgery. I mean, you go to Colombia, it's like 90% of people have it. It's so like the norm, you know, and I feel like so much of that parallels, especially over there. I feel like here, it's not, obviously, we don't have managers saying anything like that. We're so much freer here in that sense of that pressure in that specific way with the manager claiming that. But we do have such a melting pot that, and we're so far removed that it really is either you have that base, you're in a big enough town that you have like an amazing Arab community you can perform for. Otherwise, it's everything but that. And then you have what's their beauty standards and their expectations of their culture of what you should look like. So if you're performing for, I don't know, Americans versus Latinos versus Indians versus Asians, it's something you don't mean to think about, but you kind of do in a way. Like what
to a certain extent.
Expect.
Yeah. To a certain extent. I mean, I'm going to speak from my own experiences, is that I'm not, you know, because I'm doing an Indian wedding versus a Latino birthday. And, you know, maybe one of those families might be more accepting of me. The best thing that you can do for yourself as a dancer is to be honest, both with your client and yourself. Don't Photoshop your photos. You know, they should be flattering, of course, and look professional, but don't fall into this social media trap of, you know, trying to make yourself look a certain way in your photos, because then you're going to show up no matter what it is, and you have to be yourself. You are in motion. The dance is about movement. But at the same time, you don't need to hyper glorify anything. I sometimes feel like we fall into this trap, and I did too at first, where I advertised myself as an instructor as being a plus size friendly or a body image friendly instructor. And I actually got more commentary for that than just saying I'm a belly dance instructor.
Okay.
Because now you're pointing it out to people. Now you're making a thing about it, where if they hire you now, is that all you're going to talk about, or is that all that you care about? And of course that's not true. You're trying to make yourself seem open. But if you just show up and you're just yourself, like, people have eyes. They're gonna see who they're hiring, and then they're gonna make their own decision before you even have to have any sort of conversation about it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What are some mistakes? You know, we've all made them. We are all human. What were maybe some mistakes along the way that naturally just kind of happen as a result of this because it is part of the industry. You're going to get judged on this. So, what are some things that maybe come to mind?
I have definitely taken down videos because I was too embarrassed. I have definitely maybe at one point did a little too much filtering of some photos, which is why I talk about it and I tell my students, like, don't do all that. You know, get good at makeup if you feel like you need to do something, because then at least you're performing with it. I've definitely let people talk down to me too much when I was younger because, well, and let's be honest, but if you're in a client conversation, there's kind of a customer service aspect there. So then it's almost like you're on the phone and you're trying to be polite, and then you're suddenly in this conversation with someone, and that's very awkward, especially if you don't have a mentor or a booker or somebody that you're working with that can kind of guide you through how to stand your ground, how to, you know, how to negotiate those prices just like anyone else. You know, this is why I'm asking for what I'm asking for, or, you know, yeah, if they make some sort of comment about your height. I remember when I had the entertainment company, I had someone call and specifically say, and this was weird to me, I don't want anyone under 5'4".
I believe it. Oh, yeah.
So they didn't want a short dancer. And here I am as the booker, like, that's very specific.
Yeah, there's wild things that come up as a booker, man. We need
Right.
to book that. Shit, that's my next book.
No, and it really should be, because booking or trying to book other dancers, I tried to have as diverse of a company as possible. You know, I had as many skin tones as I could, male, female, presenting, different styles, you know, I tried to do as much, and trying to book, I didn't run into too many issues because I wasn't going for super commercial. But what I would run into was, well, they wanted to be specific about who I sent. And they wanted to, like, almost go through the catalog of who I had available. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of my hardest days was when a client had a dancer go to their party. They saw pictures. You know, they also go through the catalog, and it was one of my full figure dancers. So I was super happy. She's amazing. And she got there at the door, gorgeous, ready to like get in and, you know, prep and warm up. And they just looked at her and they're like, no. They're like, they call me and they're like, no, she's bigger than the photo. I'm like, you saw the photo. You know, like, what are you talking about? And that was a hard, hard day. So I had to lose. I lost a lot of money as a booker because I'd be like, what the flip is wrong with people? But it's part of why we're talking about this.
That's right. No, that's right. And I've unfortunately met quite a few dancers that have been turned away because they're told that they're too skinny. And of course, the concern of looking too old is another huge. That's a big one. You know, do you, like Esmeralda with her silver tour, do you let your hair go gray? You know, like, how long do you keep up the maintenance, because that's really what it is, of trying to maintain a certain presentation.
Yeah, I think that's kind of everything at the end of the day. What about, you mentioned in classes and even like costuming and things, was there ever any mistakes as far as wardrobe? I'm always into fashion, that you went through being a student or a teacher or part of a group?
Yes, and I have a several part answer to that, because I have a couple of instances. You and I did start at about the same time, believe it or not. So I don't know if you remember, but importing was kind of just starting to come up in the importation process and being able to order. So sending your measurements was not really a thing. It was whatever somebody else was selling, usually used, or what people were having shipped in from the same Chinese retailers or the same couple of costume makers. And it was like everything was a B or C cup, and it was always B/C, not even a solid size. And I haven't been a B cup since probably middle school. Like, that's not going to work for me. So I had to get really good at altering very quickly, but there was some faux pas. There was some definite learning curves just because it wasn't possible for me to just go buy a costume like anybody else could. It felt like to me. And that was, a lot of that was my perception, but it was so narrow in the sizing. If you were an A cup, forget it. If you were above a C, forget it. There was nothing in that area. And it was so hard. And I remember trying to like learn how to cover bras and how to like manipulate the choli top. So there was definitely some like weird stuff that I did that was, looking back, not as professional looking as it looks now. But some of that was out of necessity.
Oh my God, you're so right. You're so right. Oh my gosh, we did start and there was really none of that. I have the same problem on the opposite end. I was a late bloomer and I had to, the bras were B to C, but for me at 19, I hadn't filled, I hadn't even had surgery. So, I mean, I was like, how do I fill this bra? How do I get this skirt that's made for a beautiful gazelle type dancer? This doesn't fit. Like the booty doesn't fit, the waist doesn't fit because like the booty I need doesn't fit. It was a hard mess.
It was ultra specific, and you know what? That would keep me as a student from signing up for group choreographies. Like the studio that I was at, it would have like learn a song kind of choreography courses, and I actually would not sign up for those because I knew that they wouldn't have costuming that would fit me. So you always saw the thing. No, it was true. I knew because I knew where they were shipping them in from, and it was like,
no
this
way.
isn't going to work. And it, you know, to their credit, it was really hard to get troop costuming back in the day that looked flattering on everybody. And everyone was really mired and sold on this idea of it had to be a two-piece costume. And not everybody wants or should be able to do that. You know, like that's not everybody's preference. So I cannot tell you how many student performances I saw in my early days where I was like, well, you can tell that she got left out because that doesn't fit her and this doesn't look good on everybody. You remember the early stuff.
Oh yeah. I remember, but I didn't experience it in that way because I'm coming at the other lens of like, man, everyone fills it and I can't fill it. I have to take everything in. So I started sewing hardcore after that. But it's wonderful to hear like a different side, you know, because yeah, I do remember like, see, I just didn't deeply, you know, like think on it. But yeah, there were girls that would complain about the thing and it would suck, you know, but you go, oh damn, that sucks, and then you just keep moving on. You know, but that's, yeah, that sucks. Both, all the sides, it just sucks when you can't have something that fits you regardless, right? And you're like, feel like you're the only one.
Well, right, and there's no incentive to really push forward. Like whether you're on one end of the spectrum or the other, what is going to make a student invest their time and their money into this project if at the end they're going to be noticeably different, or they're going to have to invest in a costume that doesn't fit them correctly, they don't want to wear it, they don't feel good in it. And these might seem like silly cosmetic things to a lot of people, I think, but it really does make a big difference when we're talking about hundreds of dollars and you're ordering something off of Temu for the hafla, and it's just not going to come in that size range, and it's not going to be even comfortable to move in.
Yeah. I think all of this is very helpful for teachers and students that will listen to this after, just because these are things you don't really think of. Like, you're so worried about the choreography and teaching this, and is everyone getting it? Is the kinesthetic learner, the visual learner? You're like, okay, are we doing the culture? And then it goes into costuming. You want everyone to love the costume, but not everyone's gonna. It's very hard. It's very hard to. It's all the details, and not everyone's gonna be happy. It's hard. It's like impossible for everyone to be happy, but it is things that can be thought of. There's so many designers now, not like a million, but we do have more, way more, and it's easier for it to come over, than back in the day. We didn't have anything. It was off the rack, and you better know how to sew and have a seamstress.
Yeah, it pretty much, exactly. Or, I can't tell you how many versions of a tank top and a skirt and a hip scarf I saw for somebody's, first Bellydance Hafla student group kind of thing, because again, you're asking people to invest. So yeah, it's gotta fit, but there's definitely more options. And I think it's important, whether you're a professional, a student, or you're the teacher, or you're the gigging professional, that there are more options fashion-wise as well. Like, I don't always love showing my arms. There's a lot of beautiful draping options with sleeves and like epaulets that can come down now. I don't always wear a stomach mesh, but when I do, now there's like so many more options with like the glitter flex, or it has a design printed in it. It can look like it's part of the costume. So it's really worth it to look at options that make people feel like, it's something spectacular and not something that makes them different.
So true. How about, we've talked a lot about, okay, here's some things you can run into for sure in some way or form. Some not so fun things that we've experienced. What do you think are like some root solutions that can, whether it's the solution for how to make the archetype, different, or just something specific like costuming or whatever it may be? What do you think are some ways to make this a better place? And again, it's around our radius, but thoughts?
So what I have come up with in all the times that I've talked about this is that the number one thing that we can do is to support each other, because it is the dance community itself that really drives the art form, also really controls the booking aspect of it. And I know some people will disagree with that, but at the end of the day, we are supplying the dancers to these venues, to these gigs. We're maintaining the studios. We're going to each other's shows. We're going to each other's workshops. We're trying to support our friends. We're trying to get the artists to come to the country, whatever it is. And where I usually see it falter is when I see dancers gatekeeping from other dancers, or trying to tell them what to do, or what they should and shouldn't be wearing, or what they should and shouldn't look like. And usually where it falters is that we start coming at it from a different perspective. If you're seeing something online from a dancer in Cairo, you need to understand that you are not in Cairo and things are very different there. Before we make any commentary on she should be allowed to wear what she wants or not, this is in a very different environment with a very different set of aesthetics, and you don't even know where this was taken, and you also may not know exactly what she's doing with her profession.
The context is key.
That is very important. And likewise, when we see something from a dancer here, if you see people commenting on what she looks like, she's too small, she's too big, she's too old, it's important to start standing up for each other. It's important to start resharing dancers that you want to support. It's important to start going up to venue owners and bookers and event organizers and saying, hey, I know a really good dancer. and then recommend it and start asking for what you would like to see and start asking for diversity. Not causing arguments, not breaking it down into Facebook fights. These don't go anywhere, and nobody ends up walking away getting any sort of support. But what we do want to do is start being more vocal about what we do want to see. If you feel like everybody in the festival lineup is looking the same, you can speak up. You're spending money there.
Yeah, feedback is always so good. And I love how you're saying it's like from a very supportive standpoint. It's not the let's start a online, which again, it still baffles me, these online things, very old fashioned, but you'll just see that happen. You're like, oh, why? Like, why? If you don't like something, don't look at it.
Well, that, and I obviously have a lot to say, and I stay out of them because it's like nobody's listening at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't going anywhere. You know, especially when I see the stuff about the Cairo dancers, it's like if you have not been, I am so sorry, but you're missing some information, and that's really important. So it's something where we don't want to propagate certain behaviors, and we want to promote more.
I love that. Ooh, tell me more. What else? What else? Ooh.
I mean, that's my big one, really. Like I said earlier, the call usually comes from inside the house. If you're dealing with venue owners that only want something specific, you're going to have a very hard time dissuading them.
Yeah.
You know, there's not enough work usually to go around for gigging professionals, so it's not like they don't have a pick of other dancers. And especially, you know, when we start seeing dancers going from city to city and they're going across state to do gigs, they're going to be able to choose who they want to choose. So it's important in your own marketing and in the way that you are doing your negotiations that you're standing up for yourself and that you're being not only putting your best foot forward, of course, but you're being upfront and very authentic to yourself. There is no need to shrink yourself, but there's also no need to hyperinflate what makes you different. Just be yourself. And that's counterintuitive. I think it's really counterintuitive. Like, you don't have to market yourself as a senior dancer. Just, you can tell people how long you've been doing this. That's impressive enough.
Yeah, for sure. I think something of you say, it makes me, when I think of solutions, it's like confidence keeps coming up. And I think that confidence is something that only you can have. I think some of the mistakes we have, especially when we're younger, is think of like high school years, right? You rely on the feedback of others for confidence. I think that's something that's very normal. Not everyone, but I would say the majority. And then I would say in my experience as an instructor, I would see a lot of women coming to the dance, healing. So it's already hard enough. On top of that, they're coming to the dance to heal from something, or there's something there that's making them go, this has been fulfilled. There's something here that I feel free, whatever it may be. So you have that. And then through all that, you need to have your own confidence. Otherwise, you'll never find it. Like, no one can give it to you. So if I have to think of a solution, if tomorrow everyone wants blonde people that are 7 foot tall and, I don't know, 300 pounds, and that's the beauty standard, I'm not gonna fit that. And I'm okay. But that takes years to find. And if there's no market for it, that's okay. I'll do it myself. I'll make my own event. You know what I mean? It's that confidence in you, I think, that no one can ever take away. And that's probably the hardest thing. And that's a big solution.
It is absolutely the hardest thing. It is probably the ultimate solution, especially when we start talking about I'm going to make the things that I want to see in the world, which of course takes time and money and expertise and support and a lot of energy. And you may not be in the right environment for it, so then you have to find something that will support you, and that's a whole nother ordeal. But in that vein, your network really is your net worth. And if you are feeling like you're stuck in studios or environments where you're constantly being negated, or you're being told or discriminated against actively, you know, and that's not going to work either. And that's absolutely the biggest deterrent for building that confidence. In confidence building, like in life coaching, we learned there is something called the confidence competency loop, which is simply, obviously, the more you do something successfully, the more confident you get about it. So the more paying gigs you get, the more shows you do, the more positive feedback you get, the more confident you're going to feel about it. And it's easier to make corrections. Like, you know what, I would change my costuming after that show last night, or I would do my hair different, or, you know, like I really felt good about the way that this felt, or this seemed like the right crowd for me. I should really look for more things like this, and I can change the wording on my website maybe, or look into other social media tactics to really get into that target audience. If you're constantly surrounded or trying to force your way into events, gigs, restaurants, whatever, where it is clear that you are not what they are looking for, whether they're openly saying it or not, you're not going to get that feedback loop. Mm-hmm. So it is important, and it's hard to say that's not for me, even when you see everybody else on social media doing it. That is the hardest. That is absolutely the hardest.
Yeah, I think some context too is you have to have that grit, but yeah, know when it's a no. When is it not you anymore? But yeah, I think there's good to have some grit, especially in this industry. If you don't have any grit, probably not gonna last very long. Your feelings will get hurt real quick if you don't have it. It's the truth. It's entertainment.
It is, but it doesn't mean that we should tolerate toxicity. Yeah. Or abusive behavior or discrimination, call it out when you see it. Sure. But I always caution people against being hard. You don't have to be so gritty that you're like, you know, an old showgirl and you've seen it all, kid. You don't have to be like that. It's learning, it's real confidence in learning to stand up for yourself and say, okay, that's not for me. Thank you very much. I hope you find what you're looking for. No, I'm not giving you a recommendation. Have a great day. Yeah. Or, you know, okay, that's a really famous teacher, but I don't want to work with them because I need to stand on my principles of what I'm seeing. That's the real grit that we're talking about. You don't get into arguments with people. There's nothing to argue about. You're who you are. There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing needs to be changed. You need to find something that's better for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So well said. I think with body image, it's so all-encompassing, and in 1 hour, I can keep going with it. Like, I remember something interesting that only has happened in belly dance. I don't know if you have something similar. I would love to know. But I've always had everyone always thought I was not ever Colombian growing up when I was little, and I always have a nose that looked very, very ethnic. And I remember getting made fun of for my nose growing up. And I was like, oh my God. And then I get to belly dance, and they're like, oh, you look Arab. Oh, you have the look. And I'm like, I'm Colombian. And I'm like, thank you. You know, and funny enough, this community where I could have ended up like totally, I can't breathe out on one side. I probably should have a surgery, but I don't want to have a surgery. I want to leave it alone, okay? I love my nose now, but it was through the opposite, like still body image, but like the flip side, interesting was that for me in body image, where they're like, oh, this is great. You look like us, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. And I'm like, oh shit, I have to keep this. This is a moneymaker here. It was very interesting, like such an opposite end of the spectrum experience growing up, being made fun of, and then again embraced for something you would have never, you'd even like coming into this industry. It was very interesting, like so many angles that this can come from. Did you ever have anything experience like that? Like total.
Yeah. Not about anything so specific, but I would say I definitely felt the flip when I went overseas. In America, I always felt like they were looking for well, everybody wants something that's outside of their culture, right? Everybody wants something that looks more exotic than what they're used to. So in the restaurants here, it was like, dye your hair black, and they wanted the more Latino, kind of Latino looking girls because they did look more Arabic with the long black hair and the olive skin, gorgeous. And
Florida.
yeah, and I don't look that way. And I remember getting in trouble at one of the restaurants for having red hair, and I was told to dye it. Yeah.
Restaurants are like the hardest ones, man. Oh,
So when I went to Egypt, I suddenly felt like a princess because I have, they fetishicize white skin, unfortunately, but I have green eyes. I'm very curvy. I have red hair. I'm an American. Like, suddenly the whole script was flipped where I was taken more seriously and I was seen as more beautiful because I did not look like them. I looked more of like what they consider an aesthetic ideal. And that really threw me for a loop because my whole belly dance career, I was told I was too curvy, and they were like, no, you're perfect. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you want.
Yeah, the aesthetics of the market you're in are, man, they really change. Even within the US, they would be very different. If I go to Texas compared to New York, compared to California or Florida, completely different expectations, let's say.
Yeah.
Oh, so intriguing, so intriguing. Where were we? Okay, solutions, yes, solutions. Any other solutions you can think of, or anything else you want to pepper in there before I kind of go in there? By the way, do you have any conflict?
Yeah, we definitely cover the major ones. I've always said like marketing is your strongest tool. If you feel like you're not getting enough work as a dancer and you're suspecting that it might be because of appearance, sometimes it really isn't. Sometimes it's just, usually people hire who they know first, so they know somebody through somebody, someone recommended them, somebody, and we get that a lot in Tampa where it feels like it's the same dancers over and over again in a lot of the restaurants and things. But I've made most of my career on private parties, on doing networking events, doing art galleries, doing women's events, things like that. Think outside the box. Think about who would ideally hire you and like you for who you are. The art is really important to me. Being able to use authentic music is really important to me. So I angle my marketing towards that. And there's a lot to learn there, but if you do that, you can find your niche where you're not even, like, it's really rare that I get any sort of commentary or any sort of like argument about what I'm charging or who I am as a dancer anymore. It's very rare. Because by the time I'm talking to them, by the time I'm having that conversation, they're ready to book.
Yeah.
So if I am having any sort of issue, it's maybe someone making some sort of weird backstage commentary, and half the time they don't know they're saying it. I'll never forget, I was getting ready at a show, and I'm backstage, and everybody's getting dressed like we do.
Yeah.
Someone that I hadn't seen in a long time. I've known her for many years, but she looked at me, and she was like, wow, you've gained a lot of weight.
Oh,
and I went, and then she like tried to catch herself, like, well, and like Diva Dorina gained a lot of weight, and I think she's fantastic. Like, she's so beautiful. Like, we need more plus size dancers, and she just started like going on.
Yeah.
But I turned around, and I don't know what possessed me, because usually I'm pretty quiet. I turned around and I said, why are we talking about this? And it just stopped. And that's when I realized that instead of like trying to make a rebuttal or trying to like throw something back, it's like, why did you bring this up? Why did you feel the need to say this to me? Because that puts it back on the other person.
Yeah. Very great answer. Very great answer. I love that. A lot of what you're saying, like, it takes years to do this. The niche the marketing for the niche. This is years, because I think that so many people look to Instagram and Facebook, and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, it takes years to find yourself, much less finding yourself then in the public eye and how you want to position a business. These are all very different things. And they're happening at the same time at very different paces. So it takes time. Anyone listening to this, I think everyone wants it yesterday. It's not like that at all. It's not real. And anyone has any questions? Oh, hi guys. Please type them in. Otherwise, we'll just answer after the everything's posted and all that media. Let's see. Closing remarks. Ooh, closing remarks. Let's see. I got one though. Yada. What are some ways as a mentor to support our curvy plus size students who want to transition into the entertainment industry? What are some ways to encourage them to follow their goals and also prepare them? That's a great question.
That is a very good question, and I'm really glad to hear that from an instructor too. I would say first and foremost, language is really important. The way that you speak to somebody has a lot of weight, the message that you're sending. So if you have anyone of any size, plus size or not, coming to you and saying, I want to be a professional, you know, sometimes we inadvertently go like, oh yeah, you have the perfect look for the restaurant. And it's like, you don't know who's overhearing that. Your other students in the background are probably thinking, okay, I guess I'm not doing that. Okay, so be mindful of that. When it comes to plus size specifically, a lot of times the conversation starts to come around costuming. And let the student lead with their questions. Try not to be the first one to point out like, well, that's not going to be flattering on you, or that's not going to look right. Try to, you know, let them, if you have somebody in your area that imports, or there is something where people have different costumes for sale, try to let them try on different ones. But think of it like regular clothing. What are you normally comfortable with? Do you like showing your arms? Are you okay with your midriff? Okay, and then if they express concern to you, like, well, I thought I'd be okay with it, but now I don't feel so great. Now we can talk about options. Okay, you know, or hey, you can wear this with the sleeves or not. It depends how you feel. Sometimes I get a little cold, but try not to center it around only appearance. This is more of, if we, how do I want to word this? If we only sell this as it's all about being pretty, we're missing the mark, because now you're also discouraging them from training as an artist. Right? Yeah. So mind your language, mind how the way that you're sending the message that you want to send. Of course, we want to warn our students about people being rude to them or making comments, and just offer and just say like, listen, if anybody says anything to you, you come straight to me. You know, text me, let me look at the comment first. Do not engage with these people. Like, we usually teach grown adults, so they know what might be coming their way. You're not telling them anything new. And what you want to offer is that you're going to be a source of continued support, and that you're there, and that you're going to help them through this. They don't have to do it on their own. And there's techniques and ways that you can help them support this journey.
Great question, Yara. Oh, you know, something else just popped up. Oh my gosh, it's already so much money. Something else that just popped up is, again, the network, your community. I find you can always reach out to someone, even if they're across the world or just in your little neck of the woods. They're like, you know what, you're also, you know, my side. Like sometimes you just need someone to be like, hey, you little too, or, you know, or you're curvy too, or whatever, maybe. Like, how do you do it? Like, how do you do this? How do you, have you thought about this? Oh, what do you like about this? Da, da, da. It's nice to have like a tribe too, you know, like people, we are humans, we are a connection, you know, we're not alone, even though it can feel lonely many times as you're coming up and like experiencing it. And you're just like, you don't even know what you like or don't like, or you didn't realize until people start commenting in this industry. You're like, huh, I didn't think I was this or that. Okay, thanks, you know.
Well, exactly. That can morph as you go along as a student or a professional. And also, make sure if you do have students or you have a studio environment, like try to give them some opportunities to do solos, opportunities to do different types of projects, encourage them to try. If they themselves say they're not ready, then they're not, but they know that it's there. And like I said, you never know who is overhearing. If people see that the opportunities are for everybody, that creates a more supportive environment overall.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Any final words, Oriana, to close out? What would you say if someone gets one thing out of this? What do you want them to know? What would be the summary, like the one-liner?
The one-liner. That's tough. That's tough.
I know one line's a little too tough, but closing remarks are your wishes for someone that listens to this later. What do you want them to know?
If you're really good at what you do, it's hard to question it otherwise. So no matter, you know, and that's not really a one-liner, I guess, but the art comes first. The art absolutely comes first for me and for most professional dancers. And it is very hard when you feel like you don't fit in, no matter what it is. It could be bowling, it could be anything, but it's important to remember why you're doing this. So if you're really good at this and you really care about it, put that first.
I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for your time. For anyone listening, if you want to learn more, keep connecting with Oriana, you can follow her on Instagram, and it's easy, at Oriana Bellydance. Easy. You can go follow Fanus Magazine, and in December, which this month, it just came out actually, is the Golden Era magazine issue. It's the one that happens once a year. It's super fun. It just came out on the 15th. So if you want an issue, go sign up to a Fanus magazine and be part of it. Thank you so much again. I love it. I adore everything you're doing. Thank you for everything. Keep shining that light, hun. And I'll see you around. Bye, everyone.
I'll see you around, girl. Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.